You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, people-centric leaders. Our team was circling up over here at our people-centric headquarters based here in Springfield, Missouri, with the satellite office out in the Seattle area, out on the West Coast. And we were just talking about lessons that our clients have learned and how some of those lessons are not good. Some of the things that you learn based on experience, right? They say that experience is the best teacher. I think that's a Ben Franklin quote. By the way, the rest of that quote is, but only fools learn from experience. It's because sometimes the experiences teach you the wrong things. So today, instead of like trying to teach you what you should learn, today we're going to try to teach you what you shouldn't learn. That's kind of meta, right? Diana, so Diana's on with us here. Diana, what's the worst thing you've ever learned?
Uh, to get on a podcast with you and have you ask me weird questions. I don't know, man.
Good answer. I was chuckling so much because Diana was like, Don, you really got to facilitate this one and draw this out. And I just asked the worst facilitator question I've ever asked on a podcast.
What's the worst thing you've ever learned?
Diana, what do you think? How do you think Aristotle's lessons were?
That question's sort of like, Diana, who broke you and
Who
why?
broke you?
Like,
Why
I don't
are you
know,
the way
man.
you are?
So many things.
It's so many things. It's the lessons that we learn. Yeah. So when we talk about human interactions, Bethany, you do a lot of coaching. Like Bethany's on with us here. Bethany, you do a lot of coaching with people. And so are there times when you see your people that you're coaching learn something that you're like, that was a bad lesson to learn from that situation? You took away the wrong conclusion. You had the wrong conclusion.
Yes.
As working together.
Yeah. Actually, one example of that, there was one that I was thinking about the other day, and it was this, I don't have the quote right in front of me, but it was somebody that I was coaching, and he was saying, I really struggle to take time away from work. And I heard this Zig Ziglar quote that was like, treat every day like you're going to be gone for the next 2 weeks or something. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting quote. And he's like, so that makes my list every day super long because I have to get everything done. And I was like, oh, I don't think that's what the quote means. I think what they're trying to say is actually like, you can't hold on to everything. You can't always get everything done, right? Like you've got to be able to like be free enough that you can step away at a moment's notice to be able to take 2 weeks off and not worry that things are going to get dropped, right? So like that's just one really recent example that I think about. And it's not necessarily connected to, I think like some of the things that we're talking about are also specifically like interactions people have maybe at work. But that was just one that I was thinking of. That was really fresh.
That's a really good example.
That is a good example. And it made me realize like I don't know the bad lessons that I've learned unless somebody has pointed it out, right? It's hard to know when you've picked up the wrong lesson.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, Diana, and I put you on the spot because it's really hard. How do you know, like, what did you learn that you shouldn't have learned? Because by learning something, you've hardwired something into your brain in a way. Like you're like, okay, well, I'm stuck on this thing. I learned this thing. This thing happened to me, and so I'm going to take a lesson from it. And therefore, it has given me some bit of what I think is knowledge that I'm going to now apply in the future, and it's going to hold me back. It's going to hold me back. So we're going to talk through a few of those that are the most common ones that we see in terms of business, in terms of interactions and personal relationships. And I'm going to start off by reminding everybody that one of the hardest things about working with people is that there's another person involved. And because there's another person involved, I'm going to remind you that as a manager, as an employee, as a coworker, as anything that you do, you can do everything perfectly. Your reaction could be exactly what it needs to be, and the other person could still choose to have a bad reaction. So you might do everything perfectly and it still doesn't work. So you have to be, that's putting all of this into context. So First example of an overcorrection that we have heard or seen people is around delegation. So here's the scenario. I'm a manager. I'm leading a team. We've got to go do something. I've got too much to do. I get it off my plate. So I give it to somebody else and I say, hey, would you help me with this? And they drop the ball and they don't help me on it. So then my conclusion is I can't trust anybody else to do something. I got to do it all myself.
I mean, or you do trust them, they do it, but it's not as good as what you would have done. That happens a lot too.
Oh, that's even better,
Well,
right?
that's what happens to me.
That's well, Diana, because Diana has a level of
High.
done that is different than most people's level of done.
Yeah.
It's true.
So for most of my life, I was like, delegation is a lie. I can't do it.
Delegation is a lie. Just don't. Just give up.
Just don't do it.
That's the
That's
message. That's the
crazy
message.
talk.
So if you
Yeah.
were coaching Diana, Bethany, what question would you ask her?
Right, reverse psychology. I would say, what if you start to expect that everybody else can do it better than you can?
Yeah. Yeah.
And put it on them that way. That's not really a question. It's just
That is a question. I
It
like
is.
it.
It is. And honestly, that's what's happened. Like over the years, I've been like, you know what? I trust this person implicitly and they're going to do it better than me. And then they do.
yeah.
And I don't know if that was mindset or just the right people, but that's what happened.
So maybe what is the lesson learned from that? So let's use Diana's example. So you have a project that needs to get done and you give to somebody else and they kind of do it. They do it, but they don't do it very well. They do it okay. What's the lesson learned from that? What are good lessons from that example?
Well, I think that other people are capable of doing it, and that there's different ways to do the same thing sometimes. And so then I think it's just either managing, what our own expectations are for it to say, like, does it really matter if it's done the way that I would do it? And if it does, like, if there is a clear, like, hey, this is the quality that I'm looking for, and that was not executed, then if it's somebody you manage, then like that's an opportunity, right? That's an opportunity to go train and develop this person and help them see why certain elements are really important to do a certain way. And some of it's like your own development. If it's not that, then it's like your own personal development too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I took away a lot of like, okay, maybe this isn't perfect, but they got it a lot farther than I could have at this point. I didn't have time to do it. They got it so much further. So now I just need to add this much instead of this much, right? I just need to add a little bit instead of all of it. And so then it was like, oh, I actually am using my expertise in this moment because I'm finishing out something or I'm adding a layer that someone didn't think about or I'm thinking through a hole that no one saw instead of me creating it from start to finish. I'm working at the top of my brain power that way.
Yeah, it strikes me that both of you had a very thoughtful, triaged kind of an approach to that of like, let me break down exactly where did this fail, what happened. But we know like in real life, you're usually on the fly, and it strikes me like when we overcorrect something, a lot of times because maybe we're making a quick decision. We're not even maybe even consciously thinking, well, then I'm not gonna. You're not sitting there at your desk going, let me really consider this. I can't trust anyone else to do anything ever. You're sort of making an unconscious quick decision of saying like, well, then that's going to take forever and all this is going to be more work, so I'll just do it myself. And maybe it's not that you're making the wrong conscious decision, it's making the wrong unconscious decision in that case to say like, I can't trust anybody else, so I'm just going to do all the work myself because it's less work. It's less work to just do it myself. Well, it's less work one time, but if you add up all the times where you couldn't have delegated those projects to people, then now you're just going to be more work for yourself, right? So that's the idea on that one. Uh, I like
Yeah, and I
that.
think it's really easy to make that unconscious decision. I did for years, right? It's super easy to say, okay, well, this project's really important and it really needs to be done well. And you can make up all those excuses and then end up putting it all on yourself. And I think a lot of people do that for a long time until it gets to a breaking point and it's like, well, I just can't do that anymore. But I think you learn the bad lesson before you learn the good lesson.
Yeah.
You take away the wrong thing before you get to the right thing.
It's easy to take away the wrong thing. And then the wrong thing carries with you and then compounds additional mistakes. And that's that one specifically on the delegation. I mean, we've done whole episodes on that, just that. And it prevents a lot of supervisors from becoming managers, directors, executives, and it prevents a lot of executives from being really effective at their job. A lot of executives don't end up doing their job because somewhere in their career they learned that lesson when they shouldn't have, and they get stuck.
And it's the getting stuck, right? It creates a story in your brain about all people and all projects and all processes and all delegation, when really it was just that one time in that one moment and that one thing.
Yeah.
And you need to circle back to that and be like, okay, what do I do in this situation? And how do I make that better next time?
Yeah. So a lot of this is pointing to when something bad happens, of taking a moment to triage it, preferably with a coach, somebody from the outside who could ask you dumb questions to be able to just say like, and I say dumb questions, but they're questions that help you to focus and things that helps you to find direction so that you can learn what you need to learn, not learn what you don't need to learn, right? And be careful with that. Okay, here's another scenario. You're a manager and you have an employee and you really want this employee to be successful. You're really rooting for them. Maybe they've got kind of a good attitude about things. You really like them. You just think they could be successful, but they're just not doing the right things. No matter how hard you try, and you've been through a management training, so you know all the right things to do. You're checking for ownership. They're owning it sometimes. You're trying to coach, but they're not solving things. And then they kind of switch to not owning it, and you're struggling with that, and you just keep going, and you're struggling and struggling, struggling, struggling. You have had the conversations. You've done everything you can do. They're just not that you can't get them on the right page. What are the wrong lessons that we see managers learn from that situation?
Everyone sucks and just fire people.
Just fire people. So you could become the jaded, I hate all employees. Everyone is
I
terrible.
hate all of them. I hate managing people. I hate people. I hate employees.
I'm gonna stop caring. I'm gonna stop caring about people because it just hurts too much. Right?
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you just stop addressing the difficulties. And I think it's like people swing really hard and they're like, okay, we're just gonna fire and I don't care about people. Or there's like, I just can't address any of the difficult conversations. So we're just gonna like let people exist and hang out and they're here too long and it is what it is.
Yeah. I invested too much time in that. I'm just gonna learn the lesson. If you're failing, I'm just gonna get you off my team.
Yeah.
I've definitely talked to managers and even business owners who have that philosophy of just saying like that they've read the book Good to Great and they've heard about getting the right people on the bus. And I have heard that misquoted so many times of like, you got to get the wrong people off the bus. And if you're the wrong person, you got to get them off the bus. And I'm like, you should have a conversation with them before you kick them off the bus because you might have the right person on the bus. They just may not know what seat to sit in. Like you might have that problem and you might be misinterpreting it.
And Bethany just said a phrase that is like one of my trigger phrases. And the phrase is, it is what it is. Is it? Is it what it is? That no, I do not accept that phrase. It is what it is. How do we get here? How can we move past it? Why is it the way that it is? It is what it is. Triggers me when people say it. And Bethany just said it. And I think it's that like that mindset of like, well, it is what it is. We can't, there's literally nothing to do about it. I never believe that. I reject that.
Well, I have also seen another mistake that's related to it is what it is that the manager says, well, I must have screwed up something in my approach to this. So then they don't manage that employee. They don't deal with the situation. So then the employee lingers for a long time. They're like blaming themselves. Like, I don't feel like I've managed this absolutely perfectly. So now I'm going to compound that mistake by allowing this person who's an underperformer to stay on my team for a long time. I'm just going to try to isolate them or deal with that, right? Or, and I've coached people through this before, and I think our team has before, where you talk to the manager and they really did handle it perfectly. You handled everything, you did everything right, and the employee decided to not do what they needed to do. They never leaned into it, right? You could do everything right and it still doesn't quite work out. Which is another, and then you can make a mistake then of saying, well, then I must not have done everything right. I should adjust something that I've done, when really your takeaway should be don't change what you did. Like do exactly what you did. It just didn't work this time. It is what it is, right? It goes back to the Bethany statement. Diana, what is it about that you hate about that statement? I'm sorry.
The is what it is. I think it's just like a very lazy statement to me. And I kind of want it to like, I want to unpack it. I want to be like, okay, what got us here? What's going to get us out of it? It doesn't have to stay. Nothing is permanent. Nothing has to stay the way that it is. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about that statement that I'm like, you've given up. That's
Yeah, it
a
makes you feel like
defeatist statement.
you feel like you are powerless.
Yeah.
You can't control anything. And
Yeah.
there are some things you can't control.
Yeah. And I agree with there are some things you can't control. I think that's true. And I do think that you can do everything right and still not win, especially when there are humans involved, right? Like I can't change or I don't know, I can't change how you feel about something and I can't change how you react about something. Like that's on the other person to do. I can change how I interact, I can change what I do, but I can only do that so much before it's ineffective, right? Before I deem it ineffective.
Yeah, you can overreact pretty quickly
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
take the wrong takeaway from it. Yes. So, okay, here's another scenario. Here's another one that we're jumping on to. So this one, we're gonna call this one, you're sticking your neck out. You're sharing an idea, you're putting something out there. So maybe like you're sitting in a team meeting or something like that, and your boss is like, hey, we're looking for an idea on something here. And you stick your neck out and you're saying, really, we do this over here and it doesn't work very well. And it's a little bit of a risky thing to say because you've never done it that way before. You might, somebody might take it the wrong way, but you're sticking your neck out and the other person, you get shot down either by another team member or the manager's like, hey, we need to remain positive here or something. What's the wrong lessons you can learn from that if you stick your neck out and your head gets chopped off?
Well, probably never going to do that again.
Never be
Don't
sticking.
want to share any ideas. It might have been done already. Maybe it was done before and it didn't go well and I didn't know because I wasn't there, or maybe it just feels like too risky of an idea and I don't want to be misperceived as being, like you said, maybe negative or not a being bored with what the existing plans and processes are or whatever. So I'm just gonna not. I'm just gonna be quiet in those meetings and just agree with whatever the group decides.
Yeah. And that's a tricky one because that can be the right response.
Hmm.
So like in that
Sure.
situation, like you learn that you stuck your neck out. I've coached several people through this, and I'll bet both of you have too, where they said I brought up an idea and it was shot down, so I'm never going to bring up an idea again. And then we
Hmm.
talk about, well, how did you bring up the idea? When did you bring up the idea?
Yeah.
Like those kinds of things, right? Those are the actual mistakes that can happen.
Yeah, there was a time when Diana was young that my exact phrase was, well, the boss said, that's how we've always done it. And my exact phrase back to him was, how we've always done it is now stupid. And he didn't like that, right? Like, I get why he didn't like that. He didn't like that. And so he kind of was like, sit back down. Don't say any more words. He didn't say that exactly, but that was the sentiment. And so I was like, well, fine, I'm just not going to say anything anymore because he didn't like that I didn't like it and that I want to change it. When the actual lesson I should have taken away from that is approach it better, right? Like he probably would have listened if I had not called it stupid.
Yeah, yeah,
Approach
and
it
we would point to our Be Curious episode if you're like that one I want to learn more about. I would go back and look at our Be Curious episode and look at that. And the idea is that instead of pushing ideas onto the team, and when you get excited about doing this, and I am so guilty of this, and I still haven't learned this lesson fully. I still do it. It's like as you push the ideas and you're like, oh, but we could do this, and I'm going to be so excited and everything, but you run ahead of the team. You run ahead of the team. Where if you take a Be Curious approach, you can ask some questions. Well, what if we approached it this way? Or I liked Bethany's reverse psychology question earlier to talk about, well, what if that did work? What if you approached it in a way that this, how do I like that. What if we did do it a different way? What if we had a different way of approaching it? Would it make a difference for our team? And then what would that look like? Or what if we agreed that it wasn't going to work initially, but we were going to fix the problems as they arose? Or those kinds of questions, just to be curious, is a different approach for sure. But yeah, to learn to never speak up, that's rough.
Yeah. And like you said in our previous example, you can also, I think we've also seen times where somebody did present ideas in the really right way and they handled it really well and their ideas were good. And sometimes the team's response or the manager's response was really poor and they just shut them down and there was no conversation about it, and there was no curiosity on their end or willingness to explore new ideas, right? And so I think that we've definitely seen that true of like you could have done it really, really well, and the team not received it well still.
100%. I think as a manager, you have, especially as a manager, I think you have to look at it. Every idea presented to you is like an iceberg.
Yeah.
An iceberg, the idea is that you see the iceberg above the water, but there's a lot more ice under the water. And every idea that's presented to you, you're like, I just have an idea, and they might tell you something. Most of the time, in my experience, that person has thought a lot about that idea, and there are a lot of times they took and they may have been talking to people how they're going to bring it to you, when they're going to bring it to you, what that looks like. And one of the best ways to get disengagement from somebody is to shoot down that idea really quickly and not honor the time and effort that they put into it. And I think that happens so quickly. And I know I've done that to people. I'll bet all of us have done that to people in our careers, and you don't even know that you did it. So just kind of be on the lookout for those. I think that ideas, I've never said that before. I kind of like it. Ideas are like icebergs when they're presented to you. You just see the small part above the water, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, and I think as a leader, like sometimes, yeah, people do bring you ideas that you're like, that's a really bad idea, even though it was brave of you to come. And I like what you said, Dawn, of like, but there's a way, it does just like, just because you're hearing and receiving somebody's ideas doesn't mean you have to follow through or execute on all of those things, but there's a way to honor people by hearing their ideas and asking questions of them and being curious about it so that you don't create disengagement. Because you're right, that's a really quick way to disengage an employee.
Yeah, yeah. And if you were disengaged, here's the mindset that's difficult. We were talking to the manager just now. Like, manager, listen to the ideas. Just listen. You might not run to the idea, just honor the idea. You don't have to like the idea or advance it or not advance it, but you do need to honor it. But now I'm talking to the employee who brings the idea. If you bring the idea and it's shot down or it's not listened to or whatever, and then you stop bringing it up, stop bringing ideas, that's your choice. That's you giving up your power. So that's not that it's not listening. It's not that others won't listen to you ever. That's a wrong conclusion to make. It's that in that you just came to the wrong time, the wrong place, you caught them in the wrong moment, whatever that was. Give the other person a benefit of the doubt a little bit and try a different way, try a different tact. Circle back. Be careful what you learn from that. All right, so let's talk about another one. So let's do a coworker one. Let's say you come in and let's say Bethany and I are coming into work together. And Bethany says, "Hey Don, good morning." And I said, "What's so good about it? You got the negative coworker. You work with Eeyore. You work with Eeyore. What's the bad lesson you could learn from that?
I don't know, but the first thing, if you said that to me, I was like,
What is
do you
happening?
need coffee? What's going on? Let's go sit down somewhere, sir.
It
You poor
needs
thing.
it
What's
needs some
happening?
food. Yeah, I'm probably
What?
hungry.
So
I'm
good.
probably hangry. You're probably
You need
right.
a Snickers.
I need a
Yeah.
Snickers bar.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's the wrong lesson you could learn from that?
I mean, I think you could just be like, oh, never talking to that person again. Or, okay, I'm just not going to say good morning to others, right? I think you could easily wipe out a lot of good things with just like one negative interaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
depending on like how long you've been there or the team, whatever, there's could be different factors, but like you might even overcorrect and decide like, oh, I guess that's not the culture here. Where maybe the culture at this place is one where we don't greet each other. We don't talk to each other. We don't have personal relationships with each other. Maybe that's just not what we do here. So I'm going to make a larger assumption about the whole company or the whole team, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I think that, and that might even be true, but that also doesn't mean the lesson isn't then, well, then we can't talk. We can't be friendly with people. We can't have relationships. It just might be that you're feeling the resistance from a natural culture. And I've definitely worked for teams where I've been surprised by the resistance of forming any relationship inside the companies. I've worked for a couple teams that were like that. And that feels really weird to me. Like when I come in, especially when you're brand new and you come in, you're like talking to people and they're like, hey, how's it going? Like what transaction do we need to counter right now? Like, and you're like, I just was saying good morning. I was just saying hi.
I'm sorry, Don. I just like to get stuff done, okay?
Thank you, Diana. Diana, I just want to hear about your dog. Tell me more about your dog,
I don't have time to tell you about Sweet Rocky Bear.
Rocky Bear. You got a new nickname every time. Every time you got new ones. You just stay up late thinking about those. I like it. Yeah. And also, like, if you think about the other person, so okay, so what lessons should you learn? Let's flip it to that. What lessons should you learn from that interaction?
I mean, I think it depends, right? I think it depends on the person. I think it depends on what you're trying to get out of it, right? If it were me, I probably would say something like, "Oh, gonna let that go for today," right? Like you're having a bad day. I'm gonna give you some grace. I'm gonna move past it. But if you're gonna do that to me every day, we're gonna have a conversation.
Mhm.
We're gonna have a conversation about what is happening. Is it me? Is it you? Is it the company? Is it the culture? What's going on? So I think in that particular instance, it's maybe don't do anything right away. Don't create any narratives in your head or don't create any barriers right away. Just like play it out. I don't know.
Yeah, because if you conclude that the other person's just a jerk,
Yeah,
you're going to start treating them like they're a jerk. And if
totally.
you treat them like they're a jerk, they may not have realized they were a jerk to you, but now you're a jerk to them. Because if you treat somebody like a jerk, you're treating that you are a jerk now. So now you're both jerks, right? And now you're just feeding it. And now you know who started it, where did it go? And I tell you, there have been lots of relationships I can think of where professionally it just spun out of control from just little dumb things that just built and built and built and built and built, and suddenly you're enemies. And it's like, why? Why did that happen? If you really go back and triage it, it's like it wasn't that big a deal. So some point you got to break the pattern. I like it kind of goes back to what Bethany said. What if you treated them like they weren't a jerk over time? What if you treated them? What if you were consistent in how you treated them and you treated them nice most of the time? And then if they were never nice, then it might require a difficult conversation to have with somebody, right? To dive in a little bit of saying, hey, I want us to have a better relationship, but it seems like you're ticked at me. Is there something that I've done? Or it seems like you're negative a lot. And I just want to let you know that kind of drags me down sometimes and it makes me not want to talk to you as much. And I want to talk to you because I think you're interesting and I want your insights. So I want to be able to solve problems with you. Where can I help you? Those kinds of conversations. Which brings to the last potential failure is a difficult conversation. You could have that difficult conversation with somebody and they might shoot you down. They might say, well, Diana, mind your own damn business. I don't want to talk to you about my personal life. I just don't like you. Okay. Stop coming
Get
at
it.
me with that stuff. What's the wrong lesson to learn from a failed difficult conversation? Because difficult conversations, by definition, have if you read the book, difficult, crucial conversations. A crucial conversation, by definition, is there's high stakes, there's high emotions. High stakes means it could fail, and so some crucial conversations fail. What's the bad lesson from a failed crucial conversation?
I'm just never gonna have a conversation, right? I'm never gonna put my neck out there and like I'm never gonna have the tough conversation. I'll just leave it, right? I think that's a bad lesson to learn from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask, and this is a real question. I'm really asking this question. But isn't there a moment though with people where it's like if you have tried, if you've had multiple conversations, they never are productive. When is the moment that you decide it's not worth continuing to have this same conversation with this person? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think when you are don't have the energy to put into it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is one answer that strikes me, which is hard because on a given day, like that day, you might not have the energy. So then I think you have to deliberately decide then how am I going to show up? I'm not going to try to be your friend, but then I think you have to deliberately have the mindset, but I'm not going to become your enemy either, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah, that's good.
if you're just not going to be, if you're going to always be negative, maybe I'm just not going to, I'll say hi to you, but I'm not going to try to be your best friend anymore.
Yeah, you just have to know like it'll limit the relationship, but
Yeah.
does that mean we never talk? Maybe not.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean, I think you have to be deliberate about it, right? If you're
Mhm.
not deliberate about it, you'll learn the accidental lesson of like, well, then I should never talk to you,
Yeah.
or you're a bad person because you don't like me, or whatever that is. So
Mhm.
I think the lesson that we learned as we talk through all these different things is, first of all, there are lots of bad lessons. One of the things, the theme in the bad lessons that I heard as we were talking through this, and we did not discuss this ahead of time, was that it seems like a lot of the bad lessons involve shutting down communication.
Mhm.
I just wrote like bad lessons create barriers, right? I just wrote that down because I was like, it strikes me in all of these that like if you're learning the wrong thing, it's creating a bunch of barriers for you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
You'll have
like
to
that.
work around those at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll
So
get more difficult. They might be easier to work around at the beginning, but eventually they'll probably get
Totally.
harder to work
Totally.
around.
that's another good insight as you think about, okay, how is this lesson going to be applied in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I think also is be deliberate about the lessons you're learning about stuff. So it requires some conscious thinking. If something happens that you don't like, instead of jumping on the phone or on your way home to talk to somebody or doing something, like play some soft music, or maybe just sit in the car quietly and triage it in your head a little bit. Think about, okay, what was that situation? Don't stew on it and get mad about it. That's easy to do that, but really think about, is there something I needed to do differently in that situation? And is there a lesson to learn from that? And what is that lesson? And then how will that lesson help me in the future? Because not, if you came to the conclusion consciously that said, I'm never going to have a difficult conversation again, or I'm never going to delegate anything to anybody again, or I'm never going to stick my neck out, or I'm never going to bring an idea to anybody again, and you say that to yourself in a quiet moment, I think you would hear that yourself say that and go like, that doesn't sound like that's going to serve me well in my career. But I'll tell you, there are people whose entire careers have been, and I'm going to use the word destroyed, because they've learned a bad lesson somewhere along the way. There are people who are like, I'm going to always hate management because they are always bad, or I'm always going to think employees are messing me over because they're always do that, and they take those always true kind of statements with them, and it really limits them, and it limits their potential, and it makes their job less fun, and it ruins their people centricness is the term. Ruins their people centricness. So good episode. I hope you learned the right things, and I hope you didn't learn the wrong things in this episode. So thanks a lot for joining us. It's great to hear from all of you. Please reach out to some ideas with ideas for future episodes. We do listen to those things, and we've got one coming up that came from a listener. So we're working on it. And we can't wait to be able to talk about the topic that you presented to us. So thanks for joining us on the People Centric Podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.